When I was in junior high and high school, I used to go to different basketball camps during the summer because that was basically the only sport that I played. And for some of those, especially if it wasn't like in the town that I lived in, if I went to a certain basketball camp, I enjoyed having like somebody else on my team, or at least a friend of mine, go with me. Maybe a few of us. And so I got to do that for a few of the basketball camps that I went with. It was like a whole bunch of us, friends that were on the team together that went to these basketball camps and spent a week playing basketball together. It was a lot of fun. When I was in high school, I think going into my senior year, I went to a basketball camp in Russellville, Arkansas, at Arkansas Tech University, and I went completely by myself. Didn't know another person there. Went through all the different skills and the different things they had every single day, but I didn't know anybody. And that ended up being a really, really hard week. There were other guys from different high school teams that are all there, and they knew each other, or some of the guys that lived there in town, they knew each other. And I just didn't really know anybody. And it wasn't that anybody was like mean to me. It wasn't that anybody mistreated me. And I got, playing time, and I kind of, learned the names of some guys, and we kind of built a little bit of friendships. But man, that was a hard week. Again, not because anybody just went out of their way to mistreat me, but I didn't know anybody, and it just made it difficult. And I've been in that kind of situation in other times in my life. Have you ever been there? Maybe when you start a new job, you go to a new workplace, and you don't know anybody else in that workplace. And it's intimidating, it's hard, and it's not that anybody is intentionally mistreating you or talking ugly to you. It's a hard place to be. School is that way a lot. When your kids, when your kids go to a new school, that's difficult. I don't know, maybe even moving into a new neighborhood. Are your neighbors necessarily mean to you? No, but they don't necessarily come over and make themselves, available to you either. And unfortunately, church can be the same way, can't it? When I come to a new church family for the first time, or maybe I've been there for a little while, sometimes I struggle to feel like I'm connected with some other people. And it's not that anybody's going out of their way to mistreat me or be mean to me or be disconnected from me. But it's just hard sometimes when I'm there by myself and I don't feel like I really know anybody else or am known by anybody else. And it makes it difficult. It doesn't just make it difficult to not feel awkward when I walk in the door, but it makes it difficult to worship. It makes it difficult to really feel close to God because I don't feel close to the other people around me. And I want us to be thinking about that this morning. We started a couple weeks ago talking about this concept of being known and how important it is for us. I mean, God designed us with an innate need to be known, to be seen, to be understood by somebody. That we're not made to go through this life without relationships. And that even more than that, we need to know that somebody knows us, that somebody realizes that we are here, that we're significant, that there's meaning and purpose to us being here. And we recognized, a couple weeks ago that if we are missing that in any aspect of our lives, we always know that we are intimately known by God. That He knows us, that He knows everything about us, that He truly sees us. And even some of the things that we think we don't really want Him to know, He knows those things too. And He loves us anyway, no matter what. That we are truly known and truly loved by our God. Last week we talked about how important it is for us to know ourselves. That we really know who we are. That we don't rely on other people's perception of us or other people's labels that they put on us. But we recognize who we really are. We truly know ourselves and how vitally important that is. And this morning, as we continue going through this concept together, I want us to recognize it's important for us to be known by our church family. Not just to know other people in the church, but it's important for us to be known by our church family. Have a sense that this group of believers that I'm a part of knows me, that this is a place where I can let my guard down and I can be genuine and I can be real, and that's okay. And not just that I can do that, but that people actually know me and love me, maybe even in spite of letting my guard down and letting people see the real me. We spent the last month, some of you who weren't with us, the last month here at Flagstone, we went through looking at these different snapshots, these different pictures that God gives us of how He views His church and how we should view the church as well. And we looked at how God sees us as a building and how He sees us as a flock of sheep and how He sees us as a body and some other things. And it's one of those things that if I'm a part of this thing that God is building up, if I'm one of the sheep in this flock of sheep, if I'm one of the parts of the body, then I should expect to be seen and to be known by that body. I should expect that the other parts of the body are going to know me. And yet for some of us, maybe even many of us, that can be a struggle. We want to be known, we want to be seen, we want to be understood, we want to be appreciated and loved and treated as significant, especially by our church family, and yet some of us don't. We don't experience that. And just, just kind of thinking through this and wondering why that is, and even like asking people or even going online and seeing, like, are there other people that have this struggle? Man, if you just do a quick search online for people who struggle to feel connected with a church family, there are thousands of people who struggle with this on a regular basis. People who say, I feel invisible at church. People who say, I feel completely disconnected at church and I don't know what to do about it. And I've got to assume that with a church family this size and people join us online too, there's people in our church family that feel that way. Some of you sitting here this morning probably feel that way. Or maybe at least you have in the past. And I would guarantee you probably know somebody. If that's not you, you probably know somebody who does. Who struggles to feel seen and feel known. Who struggles to feel connected with their church family. Of all the places that we should feel the most connected, sometimes this is the place we feel it the least. And why is that? And if I asked you, if I just show of hands, do you feel disconnected from church? And if you raise your hand, if I just ask you, what is it that causes us to feel that way? We'd have a variety of different answers, and they'd probably all be pretty much accurate because it's how we're made to feel. Let me give you a few of the common ones really quick. Why it is that I feel disconnected from everybody else at church. Well, one reason is that sometimes the church isn't as good at connecting as it perceives itself to be. That's really hard to hear. But it's the truth. Sometimes the church isn't as good at connecting as it perceives itself to be. And it happens with a lot of churches. And I'll be completely honest, it's happened here. But a lot of church families, including us, feel like, we're really friendly people. We consider ourselves to be really friendly. And people who come here should perceive us as friendly people because we feel friendly. And we are. We are a friendly, I'll just talk about Flagstone. We are a friendly church. We really are. And I don't want to come across as too overly critical, so please hear this with as much love as I can share in my heart. Sometimes we're really friendly to the people that we're already friends with and to the people that we have the most in common with. And again, it's not that we walk around in here in a church lobby or a church event and go, I ain't going to be friendly with those people. That's not how we're designed. That's not what we're trying to do. But we kind of gravitate towards and spend more time connecting with the people that we either are already connected with or at least people who seem to have a lot of life in common with us. And in the process, we cause other people to feel disconnected, to feel like there's not a place for them, to feel like they're not known, to feel like they're not seen. And some people never find that person or that group of people to connect with. And so they walk away on a Sunday morning or they walk away from a church altogether going, nobody there really knows me. Nobody really sees me. And even if that's not completely accurate, it feels that way. And perception is reality. And sometimes we, as a church family, see ourselves as really good at connection, and we may not be as good at connection as we think we are. We're really good at connecting with the people that we're really good at connecting with. Part of our mission at Flagstone, as we've already said this morning, is to make and to build connections. I'll be the first one to admit that sometimes I'm not very good at that. And maybe there's some of the rest of us that struggle with that sometimes too. But we're trying. Sometimes we're just not as good at it as we think we are. Another reason that I might feel disconnected from everybody else at church is, let's be honest, sometimes getting connected is just awkward. It's just hard. It feels weird, at least at first. I may be trying to meet people and step out of my comfort zone and let somebody know who I am and something, about myself. Or maybe I've been a part of this church family before, and the preacher stands up there and says, make sure that you meet somebody. Man, we started out worship, we turn on the lights and tell somebody good morning. And for some of us, that may be the most difficult thing in the world, just to turn to a total stranger and go, good morning, glad you're here. And let's start building a relationship with each other from scratch. That's awkward. That's weird. And it's a struggle for some of us. Now, some of us are extroverted people who thrive on it. And we will go meet anybody and everybody, and we will find out every single thing about them. And that's awesome, man. If God has given you that gift, relish it, use it. Some of us struggle with that. It's hard to fashion a relationship out of thin air. And just know, if it's awkward for you as maybe someone who's trying to connect with the church family, it's also awkward for the church family too. There's sometimes where we have those internal questions I don't know if I'm bothering this person by trying to find out more about them. Do they really want to be here? Do they really want to tell me these things about them? Do they think that I'm weird? I don't think that they're weird, but now maybe I think that they're weird. Or maybe they didn't think that I'm weird, but now they do, and now I got to walk away and, it's a stressful, awkward thing. And it makes it difficult to build connections and relationships sometimes. And yet, until we spend time letting our guard down and getting to know each other, we're never going to get past those surface relationships and those surface connections. And it's going to continue to feel awkward. Sometimes I feel unaccepted because of maybe some of the choices I've made in the past, or some of the actions that I've taken in the past, or maybe some things that have happened to me that I didn't even have any control over. I'm already wrestling with guilt or shame or confusion or hurt because of something else that's happened maybe recently or maybe even years ago. And for whatever reason, I struggle to truly believe that this church family that I'm trying to connect with actually accepts me in spite of whatever choices that I've made or whatever things that I've been through. And maybe it's things, again, that I had no choice over. It's just stuff that happened to me. Or maybe it's things it's choices I made. And I've done hurtful things to myself or to other people. And whatever it is, I assume that this church family is not going to accept me. And maybe that's legitimate. Maybe there's been things that have been said to me. Or maybe I've been treated in such a way that I'm thinking I'm not really accepted here. But a lot of times, that's my perception. I already assume this church isn't going to like me. And so now I view this church through that lens. I already assume that I don't feel accepted. Or somebody has made me feel that way. And so I just assume the whole church family feels that way. So let me say this very quickly, just kind of a side note. Here at Flagstone, you're accepted. We welcome you here. Do we want better things for you? Absolutely. If there's some hurtful choices that you're in the middle of making right now, or some addictions and habits that you're involved in, we want to help walk through those things and get on the other side of them. But you're welcome here no matter what. And our leadership completely is in unanimous agreement on that. You're accepted and you're welcome here. We want to move forward together. But I know sometimes it's hard to connect with a church family when you don't feel accepted. And sometimes it's the church, and sometimes it's me. I want to blame church members for feeling unseen and unknown. I want to blame that church family for making me feel disconnected. But the reality sometimes is that I've never allowed myself to be seen, to be known. I've never let my guard down. I've never tried to build any kind of connection, any kind of relationship. I leave as soon as I can. I don't get involved in any way. I don't volunteer. I don't make eye contact. I never reach out to anybody else. And I show up and I sit and I stare at the floor and I leave, and then I wonder why nobody gets to know me. And again, I've been that person. I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm just being honest. Sometimes it's the church family that makes me feel disconnected, and sometimes it's me fostering the disconnection. And I'm sure that you can think of a whole bunch of other reasons why different people, maybe even you yourself, have walked out of a church building, walked away thinking that there's nobody there that knows me. There's nobody there that really sees me. And I do want to say this. If I or anyone at this church family, if I or anyone here at Flagstone has ever caused you to feel that way, that we really don't know you and we really don't see you and we really don't care, let me apologize. I'm sorry we made you feel that way. And I hope you'll give us another chance to do better. I think this is an awesome church family, but we are not perfect. And I hope you'll allow us the opportunity to see you and to know you and to connect with you. Because we recognize that's what you need. That's what we need too. So, what do we do? What do we do about this feeling of disconnection? What do we do when someone doesn't feel known, doesn't feel truly known by their church family? Well, let me talk to the church family first. Let me give the church family some action steps very quickly. And I'll go through these as fast as I can. But some things that we can do maybe a little bit better to help people feel more connected, to help people feel more seen and more known by this church family. The first thing we got to do is got to open our eyes. I got to open my eyes. I got to actually look around outside of my circle and outside maybe even of my comfort zone and recognize, are there people sitting around me? Are there people that I see on a regular basis, but I haven't really taken the time to really see them and to get to know them? Are there people around me that I recognize need some connection, need somebody to build a relationship with them, need somebody to spend time with them? And it's really easy. It's really easy for me to mostly focus on the people that I'm already connected to. And that's what Brandon and I were talking about a few minutes ago, is building those friendships, building those relationships. We want you to have a group of people within this church family that you feel completely connected to and can be completely genuine with and walk through life together. But I also have to have open eyes to look around and see who isn't experiencing that. And what can I do about that? In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, Paul describes the church as a body. And he talks about how the body has all these different parts. If you were with us during our Snapshot series, you remember us talking about that. That we have all these different parts that have all these different functions within the body, but they all work together to form the body and for the body to function the way that it's supposed to. And that the church is the same way. We have all these different gifts and talents and abilities, and we're all put together within the church to do the things that God has designed for us to do and to be His body in this world. And as Paul is describing that, he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 25, that as God has put in the parts of this body together, He does that so that there should be no division in the body, but that His parts should have equal concern for each other. That it's not just the people that I get along with the easiest. It's not just people that I have the most in common with that I have concern for. I have concern for every part of the body. And the question I have to ask myself is that true for me? Am I as equally concerned about the people that I've been a part of this church family with for a while and we built relationships with as I am the person who just started coming a few weeks ago that doesn't seem to really know anybody at all and doesn't feel seen and doesn't feel known? Because Paul says if we're part of this body together, there's equal concern for both. Does that make sense? I've got to have open eyes to see who doesn't feel connected, who's feeling like they're not a significant part of the body, and to see what I can do about that. Number two, I need to invite someone to my connection group. I need to invite someone to this social group that I'm a part of. I need to invite somebody to go eat after church. I need to invite somebody to coffee. I need to invite someone to be a part of what it is that I already have myself. If I feel connected and I feel known and I feel seen by this church family, I need to find the people who don't feel that and invite them to experience what it is that I'm experiencing. In the book of John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John talk about Jesus' life when he was here on this earth. And in John chapter 1, as Jesus is really, hasn't even fully gotten into his full-time ministry yet. He's just getting started. He spends the day talking with a couple of these guys that become his disciples. And one of them is a guy named Philip, and he spends all this time with Jesus. And he's so moved by his experience with him that he decides to follow him. He thinks this might be the Messiah. This might be the chosen one, the Son of God. This might be him. And Philip goes and he finds his friend Nathanael. And he tells Nathanael, you got to come meet this guy. You got to listen to him. You got to see what all he's about. And his name is Jesus of Nazareth. And Nathanael's response is, Nazareth? Man, nothing good comes out of Nazareth. And it just completely squashes the idea. I don't want to have anything to do with this guy. Why would I? There's nothing good that's going to come from this. Why would I even want to go make an effort? And there's some people that we may want to experience what it is that we're experiencing through our relationship with Jesus, through our connection with our church family, and we tell somebody else about it, and they can't even see what good would come from it. Church, connection group. What good could possibly come from that? And I want you to see what Philip's response was to Nathanael when he thought, nothing good is going to come from me experiencing what it is that you're experiencing. Here's all Philip said in John chapter 1, verse 46. Come and see. Come and see. It's not on the screen. You can look it up in your own Bibles. Come and see what I've experienced. Come experience it for yourself and just find out. And I want you to understand that he didn't, all he did was invite. He didn't judge Nathanael for having the attitude that he did. And he didn't, sit there, Nathanael, just stop. You're an idiot. And he didn't criticize him. He said, man, I like what I'm experiencing. I want to invite you to come experience it too. Come and see what you think. Come and see if you want to be a part of it. And folks, that's what I need to do, is just invite people. No pressure, no guilt. Just invite people to experience what it is that I'm experiencing. Number 3, I need to invest in folks. I need to spend time and energy and priorities and focus and effort on building my own personal relationship with that person. I need to give something to myself. I need to give something of my time and my emotions. I need to choose to be honest and vulnerable with this other person so that they can feel comfortable enough to do that with me. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25, the author of Hebrews says, let's not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let's encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Let's not stop getting together and building connections and relationship with each other. Let's not stop doing that. Instead, let's invest in each other. Now, I know he doesn't use the word invest. He uses the word that we translate in our English Bibles, encourage. If you go back to the original ancient Greek language that this verse was originally written in, that word that we translate as encourage literally meant to call somebody to your side. That I am bringing you alongside me, and we are locking arms and we are walking forward together. That I need to lean on you and you need to lean on me. And that's the picture that we get of encouragement in the New Testament. It's not just telling somebody, hope you have a good day. It is, let's get locked beside each other. And let's lean into each other and on each other, and let's walk forward together. And the author of Hebrews says we need to do that on a regular basis. You can't just do that if you don't invest in each other. If I don't invest time with you and invest something of myself in you, we're not going to lock arms. We're not going to lean on each other. We're not going to be encouraged. I need to open my eyes and see who needs to be seen, who needs to be known. I need to invite them to experience what I'm experiencing by being connected with my church family. And I need to invest in them so that they can experience it for themselves. That's where we at least get the ball rolling as a church family. Now, what if I'm that person who feels disconnected? What if I'm that person who feels unseen and unknown? What do I do? What can happen for me? Well, real fast, first thing I need to do is use my words. I need to tell somebody, I'm feeling unseen and unknown. I'm feeling disconnected. And maybe that's somebody that you've met here at church, or maybe you contact one of our shepherds, or maybe you get a hold of me or Brandon or somebody else. But just tell somebody. I mean, I don't want to put the burden of responsibility on you, but sometimes we just miss it. We're not mind readers, and we don't know exactly what all's going through your mind right now, and we may not realize how disconnected you feel. And it's not intentional. We just didn't see it. So let us know. Talk about it. Share it. How can we do something different about it if we don't know that that's what it is? And maybe we should know. I'll acknowledge that. Maybe we should see that you feel disconnected, and sometimes we just don't. So share that with somebody. Let people know what the struggle is. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, Solomon goes through a whole list of things that sometimes there's a time for and sometimes there's not a time for. And he says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 7, there is a time to be silent and there is a time to speak. And this may be one of those times to speak, to use my words, to share with someone else. I'm struggling. I don't feel connected and I want to. Can you help me? Let us know that you feel that way so that we can do something about it. The second thing is to take some initiative. And I don't mean this in a judgmental or critical way, but there may be some effort that could be made on your part. There could be some effort. If I feel disconnected from the church family, maybe there's some actions that I could take, some initiatives that I could take to try to build some of those relationships. I need to take an honest look at myself and recognize where I haven't made any effort to be known, to be seen, to be understood by this church family. I may need to take some action. I may need to take some initiative. I may need to seize some opportunities. And that might mean joining a connection group like we talked about a few minutes ago. That might mean volunteering for something. We're going to, here at the end of worship, we're going to give you an awesome opportunity to volunteer, by the way. Just spoiler alert. Maybe it means that I join one of these social groups, or that I talk to somebody when we get done with church and go, hey, you want to go out to lunch and let's talk with each other. Let's meet for coffee this week. Maybe I'm the one who can take a little bit of initiative and seize the opportunity to build some relationships with you. Jesus said in Luke chapter 6 and verse 31 that we need to do to others. You need to do to others, you would have them do to you. And that principle can apply to me taking the initiative to connect to my church family. If I want to feel seen and to feel known and to feel connected, maybe I take the initiative to build those connections myself, to invite someone else, to invest in someone else, so that I feel invested in too. Does that make sense? I may be in the habit of just wishing people would see me and know me and then be frustrated when they don't. When maybe there's an opportunity for me to take some action too. For me to put forth some effort to see and to know someone else. And not just wait for them to take the first step. Now, maybe I've tried that. Maybe I've communicated it to people. Maybe I've told the shepherds here or someone else, like, I'm feeling disconnected. Maybe I've made effort to invite somebody to go get coffee, to invite somebody to dinner, and maybe I've invited myself to somebody's connection group, and I still feel disconnected. I've been made to feel unknown and unseen. If that's the case, then the last thing I would encourage you to do is to forgive and to try again. Now, I wish it wasn't this way, but sometimes church people can be pretty hurtful. And sometimes it's kind of intentional. Church people can be critical and judgmental and say some awful things and treat people in some awful ways. And I wish that wasn't the case. And it's usually not the case here. But it can happen sometimes. And if you've been treated that way, then I ask for your forgiveness. Oftentimes it's unintentional. We can unintentionally hurt people with our words. We can hurt people with the way that we treat them. We can hurt people with the way that we don't build relationships and connection. We don't mean to. It just happens. And if that's the case, I would ask you again to forgive us. Paul says in Galatians chapter 3, in verse 14, bear with each other and forgive one another. And if any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. You may have every right to be upset. You may have every right to want to hold a grudge and to be resentful. And Paul says, even if I have that right, even if there is a grievance there, I need to be the one to be willing to forgive it. Because that's what my God does for me. And that's what I'm going to do for you too. But I also want to encourage you to try again. And I know that's easier said than done, but I want to encourage you to try again, to use your words, to take some initiative, even if it's difficult, to take some action. One of my favorite stories in Scripture is when Jesus meets Peter for one of the first times. And he spent a day using Peter's boat to preach out of. And Peter spent the whole night and probably early in the morning the night before trying to fish and hadn't caught anything. And this isn't like just staying there with a rod and reel and throwing it out there. This is taking these heavy nets and throwing them over the side of the boat and then reeling that back in and finding it completely empty and getting the nets all spread out again and thrown over the side again and reeling it back in completely empty. And he had done that all night long and hadn't caught a thing. And then during the day, Jesus uses his boat while he's sitting there being frustrated about all the fishing that they had done and hadn't caught anything. And he's listening to Jesus preaching stuff. And Jesus gets done at the end of the day with a sermon and says, you know what? Let's go fishing. And Peter, in my mind, is like, you know what? Let's not. I don't want to do that. Because he says in Luke chapter 5 and verse 5, Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. There's nothing in any fiber of Peter's being that wants to go fishing again. In Peter's mind, there are no fish in that lake. They've all gone, or they're just avoiding his net and he doesn't want to go through it again. There's no point. I've tried and it didn't work. But then he says what? Since you say so, I will let down the nets. In the very next verse, in verse 6, when they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. It ended up being better than Peter could have ever imagined. And I remind us of that story this morning because I think that there are some of us who have felt unseen, unknown, disconnected from a church family. And I would ask you just to try again. And you may have an attitude like Peter that says, but I tried and it didn't work. And I tried again and it didn't work. And there seems to be no point in trying again. And I'm asking you to forgive and to try again. Let down your nets one more time. Let us build some connections and some relationships with each other. Because maybe it'll be better than you could have ever imagined. The relationships that are formed, the connections that come from that, the way that you feel truly seen and truly known by this church family will be more than you could have ever imagined. So if you're struggling to feel connected, let us know. Use your words. Maybe take some initiative, take some action, and forgive us for not making you feel seen, making you feel known, and maybe try again. I hope I haven't come across this morning as negative and critical. I have prayed before I shared these thoughts with you this morning that wouldn't be the case. I believe with all of my heart that this church family, at Flagstone, is an amazing church family. And I'm not just saying that because I'm paid staff. I really, really feel like this is an amazing church family. But we are not perfect. We have a lot of imperfections. And to be honest with you, from my perspective, that's one of the things that makes us an amazing church family. because we have a lot of flaws. And we're trying to walk with our God to make those things better. And we want to do that with you. And we want you to experience that journey with us. We are a work in progress. And if you are a work in progress, welcome. We'll let God work on us together. And if you have felt disconnected from whatever church family you've been a part of before, even if it's this one, let's work on that together. And I will wrap up this morning. I know this isn't one of those sermons where it feels very, I don't know what the word is, evangelistic or whatever, where people feel like they have to make some significant life changes. But we're getting ready to sing a song together. When our praise team begins to lead us, we'll stand together as we do every Sunday, and we'll offer the opportunity for anyone who's got any kind of struggle to come forward, to come down to the front and share that with us. And you're welcome to do that in this moment. And even that can be weird and awkward sometimes. We recognize that. We just want to give you the opportunity to share with us maybe some kind of struggle that's going on in your heart, something that you want prayers for, something that you need help with. And when you do that, when you come to the front, we truly try to see you and to know you and to hear what's on your heart and to help however we can. We want to do that for you this morning. And so you're welcome to do that here in a second when we stand together when we sing. But the song that we're going to sing is familiar to our church family. It's one that we sung before, and it's about how Jesus Christ can fill our needs more than anything else. And not just the things that we want, but the things that we need. We need grace, and we need love, and we need hope, and we need compassion, and we need forgiveness. And there's so many things that all of us as humankind, as human beings, all of us need. And we find those things in Jesus Christ. And that's what we're going to sing about. And as we're singing about those things, if those things are missing from your life, you're welcome to walk down to the front and say, I need those things. I recognize how much I need them. And will you help me find those things in him right now? Because here's the other thing about that. It is grace and mercy and love and all those things that come from Jesus. But he allows his church to be the one to produce those things in our lives. And if you're missing grace and hope and compassion and mercy and love, let this church family be the one to show it to you. It comes from him. We want to show it through us. And if we can help you experience that, we want to. So let us know how while together we stand and sing.